What's going on, everybody? You found Bottom Tier Collector. I'm your host, the Bearded One, and this is Bottom Tier Collector for a reason. I'm a bottom tier collector talking about bottom tier matters with bottom tier opinions. I can talk about whatever I want. I'm not just bottom tier comics. I'm not just bottom tier wrestling. I can do whatever I want because my name's Bottom Tier Collector. And Fanboy Prime, you're sitting out here talking trash. You're talking about how I'm a wrestling-based channel and I'm the best wrestling channel on YouTube. You make it sound like all I do is review Wrestlemania. Well, I'm here to tell you, brother, I just dropped a Metallica review. I'm still in the comic game. I'm going to push myself even harder. I got 2 comic reviews coming. And you know what? Both of them have to do with your favorite character, Superman. So get with it. I am a collector channel. I talk about anything that I'm into. And I can't help it that Ollie James and Lady Prime are the stars of your own channel. You got taken over by the family, and I know that gets under your skin. And I know you're getting tired of getting called out by Neil Collects. Got to do the dishes. Well, that's just part of it, buddy. So don't come in here in my comment section calling me a wrestling-based channel, because I'm about to show you how it is this week, Fanboy Prime. All right. Got the house cleaning out of the way. Let's get into WrestleMania 3. The intro. The Silver Dome. It's huge. Pontiac, Michigan. Excuse my voice. I'm shouting. Still energized from that promo I had to cut on Fanboy Prime. It's huge. It's packed out. It feels like a Super Bowl. WrestleMania 3 feels like the point where Vince McMahon puts the WWF over into the national stratosphere. They're going beyond being a Northeast territory. They're going beyond competing with Starrcade and Super Clash. They are competing with the Super Bowl. They have dreams bigger than the wrestling industry as a whole. And it definitely feels like WrestleMania 3 is definitely a culmination of that dream. I wrote it, put one of the final nails in the coffins for the territory. This is the true, I consider WrestleMania 1 the beginning of the end of the territories, but I feel like WrestleMania 3 is the beginning of those final death nails for the territories. Which the territories would still kind of have that last dying breath with WCW, but that's another video for another channel. Aretha Franklin this time is doing America the Beautiful on the piano. Beautiful rendition. Again, making it feel more like the Super Bowl and not just another pro wrestling pay-per-view. Something that stands them out. This Aretha Franklin rendition of America the Beautiful. And again, I wrote WrestleMania feels on par with the Super Bowl. Huge. But they get down to business. There's not a lot of pomp and circumstance. They really are hitting their stride here. There's no Lord Alfred Hayes, and I meant to say this in the WrestleMania 2 review. I thought Lord Alfred Hayes was a super scrub, but then I read up on Lord Alfred Hayes, and in fact, during the NWA days in America, he was a huge name in British professional wrestling, like in the 50s, 60s, 70s. I don't know when, but roughly that time era. Had a black belt in judo, and was a big deal over there in Great Britain. And I think there was some drama with Lord Alfred Hayes about him adopting the American style of wrestling. I don't know what that means, but I don't think people over there in what's now just Britain, Great Britain, they're not Great Britain anymore. The UK, are they the UK? I can't remember. England, that's what they're called now. England. Everybody over in England found fault with him adopting the American style of wrestling. So no Lord Alfred Hayes, but he's not a scrub. I meant to say that in WrestleMania 2. I'm saying it here now in WrestleMania 3. I don't know if his career, I don't know if he was still in the WWF doing sideline commentary, but he wasn't in WrestleMania 3 for whatever reason. First up, we got match 1, the Can-Am Connection, which is Rick Martel and Tom Zink versus Magnificent Morocco and Cowboy Bob Orton with Mr. Fuji. Reading on history of the company. For the first 2 WrestleManias, I've been sitting here thinking Magnificent Morocco was just this jobber guy. He had a good enough physique and decent enough wrestling to wrestle and work with bigger names. But I'm learning that Magnificent Morocco, or Don Morocco, and Mr. Fuji are remnants of the old WWF. They had way bigger names, way bigger moments in their career under Vince Sr., and this is just kind of the twilight of their career, wrestling out their final days under Vince Jr. So I have to give a little bit of respect to Morocco, because I've been thinking privately, I haven't said it on camera, he's just a little bit of a generic guy, when actually he's kind of due some respect. Slow, methodical start. A little surprised WrestleMania 3 started off so slow. Can-Am did get some good tag moments. Orton and Morocco. Can-Am was trying to speed up and use their ability to tag in each other. And Bob Orton and Morocco desperately needed to slow the match down and mount an offense that way. There was one point where they had to stop the match and confer with Mr. Fuji on how to best attack the Can-Am connection. The combination of the Irish whipping Morocco and Orton into each other, Orton being flipped out of the ring over this. It was a really cool spot. Zink and Martel Irish whipped Morocco and Orton into each other. Kind of a goofy, like, silly 80s wrestling moment, making the heels look bad. Orton was flipped out of the ring into a high crossbody off the ropes onto Morocco. So as Orton gets flipped out of the ring, out of the Irish whip, I believe Martel goes into a crossbody off the ropes. It was a really fast-paced, athletic spot, and that gives them the victory. And I wrote, for the first time, WrestleMania starts off with a solid appetizer match. It was really, it was a good appetizer match. Qualifies, get your mouth watering for the main event, get your hunger for wrestling going, gets the juices pumping. Fun little match. Did its job. Next match, we got Hercules with Bobby Heenan versus Billy Jack Haynes. I thought Hercules' promo was super corny. He talks about, remember 1,000 years ago when I crumbled the walls in the Roman Empire or whatever. Did the pillars of the Roman... I don't know. It was just a corny promo. We all know you're just a 35-year-old guy playing Hercules. Like, could have wrote something a little better there in the promo. This is the culmination of a feud I'm not excited about. Yeah, in this WrestleMania, they did it a little bit in WrestleMania 2, but in this WrestleMania especially, if your feud was culminating into WrestleMania, they did some background story for you. And while they were showing the backstory of Billy Haynes and Hercules, I was just like, fart alert. Don't care. Seeing this cowboy redneck guy fighting a guy posing as Hercules. It's just total corny 80s wrestling, right? But the wrestling sold me when I actually watched the match. Billy Jack appears to be the better wrestler. Of course he appears to be a better wrestler. He had some fantastic moves. He had the makings to be a superstar. Change up his gimmick, let him be on the mic a little more, and Billy Jack could have possibly done something. I had a conversation with Fanboy Prime on Instagram about Billy Jack and how he's off the rails, and he's been involved with some murders, and most infamously the Track Kid murders, and was also a executioner for the mob, an enforcer for the mob, not executioner, enforcer for the mob. So very interesting personal life of Billy Jack. Didn't know all that about him. I thought he had more diversity and cleaner execution than Hercules. Hercules had this weird, it was like 2 or 3 moves where he was like, I don't know, the delivery of the moves were awkward. And I didn't know what Hercules was doing. Maybe he was just too amped up. It looked weird from all the adrenaline. I liked the continuity of the full Nelson lock, so that there was this spot in the backstory where Billy Jack, I believe, challenges Hercules to put the full Nelson lock on him, and he can break out of it. And I think Bobby the Brain does something dirty, and then Hercules beats up Billy Jack. He doesn't actually do the full Nelson lock. Typical heel, spot, and that whole thing, that whole continuity thing with the full Nelson lock and that challenge went into this match where Hercules puts a Nelson lock on Billy Jack. He just can't quite lock the fingers and lock it in. And Billy Jack's able to get out of it, and then he, in turn, puts the full Nelson lock, fingers locked, on Hercules. So I like seeing the continuity there, remembering where your rivalries come and where it needs to go. There was a double DQ finish with Heenan cheap-shotting Hayes, and Hercules hitting Haynes with his chain, making Haynes bleed. Added some heat, made me care about this rivalry, really stoked the flames of this rivalry. I really thought it was appropriate that they didn't resolve the rivalry or make it feel resolved at WrestleMania. That was definitely a rivalry that had potential to be good, and it needed more flames stoked to it. And having that moment, Hercules busting up Billy Jack, really can put some flames on it and make it a lot more interesting for your next coming Saturday night main event or whatever television programming followed WrestleMania 3. Next up in match 3, we got King Kong Bundy with Little Tokyo and Lord of Little Brock versus Hillbilly Jim with Little Beaver and Haiti Kid. Not much to say about this match. Total ridiculous. I've turned off by this match. Why are you having two of the biggest wrestlers in the WWF fight with little people? They were saying they were using outdated derogatory terms, which I can forgive. It was the 80s. We weren't as PC, politically correct back then. We weren't as conscious of people's feelings as we are today. Take that with a grain of salt, whatever you want. But Hillbilly Jim was a little generic on the mic. He didn't have a great promo, although Bundy sold the match better in his promo. Bundy's pretty solid on the mic at this point. Having seen him 3 times on the mic now. Bundy's got the stuff on the mic. The pre-match dancing with Hillbilly Jim and his team, his little men, like the do-si-doing they were doing, it's just way too goofy. Such a turnoff. I couldn't laugh. I couldn't suspend my disbelief enough to enjoy it. Little Tokyo and Haiti were solid wrestlers. Pretty impressed with them opening the match and the moves they were executing. Hillbilly Jim had an awful elbow smash at one point. He comes off the turnbuckle and goes to smash Bundy, and looks like he misses Bundy by a foot. It didn't really execute the move very well. And the match didn't last long. Bundy went for an avalanche on one of the little wrestlers, and they all, looking out for each other, being so small. They all, even Bundy's partners, turned on Bundy. They all drugged the guy out of the way, and Bundy left after a disqualification, pretty mad. And I'm just glad that match didn't last very long at all. Match 4, Junkyard Dog versus King Harley Race with Bobby Heenan. Moolah was also there. Moolah was going to crown Harley Race after he won, and I got to say, Moolah is awful. Moolah is so awful with her on-screen promos. She's clearly reading a card and not making it. She's making it very obvious she's reading cards. They should have just kept her off the mic. But Harley and Heenan were there to kind of supplement her promo and make it a little more interesting. Junkyard Dog at this point seems like he's hitting his stride on the mic. I've said this before, Junkyard Dog should have been champion at some point in his career, if even just for a little bitty stint, just to be a transitional guy. But for whatever reason, Junkyard Dog never got the nod to be champion. Still impressed with his promo here. This is a stipulation match that the loser has to bow to the winner. So the whole gimmick, the whole thing was that Harley Race was trying to break Junkyard Dog's spirit, make him bow down and claim Harley Race as the true king of wrestling. And it was culminating in this stipulation match where the loser had to bow down and acknowledge the winner of this match. Fantastic look back on the rival, great build up to the bell. So I liked the backstory, the build up. Harley doing a great job of making JYD look so good. Harley does that over the top selling, but it's like Ric Flair style over the top wrestling. Harley Race having such a big influence on Ric Flair, and I definitely understand where Ric Flair learned a lot of his stuff from. What makes Ric Flair so good, you know, Harley Race was great at it in this match. Didn't like the finish though. It looked as scripted. You know, it felt very scripted, the finish. It didn't feel organic at all. The ref hesitated right before the kick out. So it's like the ref was waiting, you know, is the match over or not? Made it just feel very scripted. It didn't feel like Harley earned the pin on just a belly-to-belly suplex. I believe Heenan and Moolah were mouthing off at JYD, and JYD's, you know, talking to Heenan, and he turns around for a belly-to-belly suplex by Harley Race, who gets the 1, 2, 3, which again was an awful count out with a hesitation there. But it was cool that the finish, how corrupt it was, set up JYD stealing the crown, not acknowledging Harley Race as king. He took the crown and the cape. He got the pop from the crowd and sent Harley Race and Bobby Heenan running. You know, you don't need to win a match to get the crowd over, and that's really what it's about. That pop from the crowd in wrestling. I know I'm kind of flying through these. It's been a minute since I've watched WrestleMania 3, so I'm really going off the notes here, not a lot of memory. But I do want to take the time, since WrestleMania 3, WrestleMania 2 was the start of very long WrestleManias. WrestleMania 3 being about 3 hours long as well. I want to take the time to put a video break in here, so we'll get a word from our T800 Terminator, and I'll be back for the next 4 matches of WrestleMania. Alright guys, it's me, Bottom Tier Collector, and I'm here with part 2 of WrestleMania 3. Hope you're enjoying the video series so far. Let's get on with it. Jacques and Raymond, the Raju brothers, who I thought were straight jobbers. We'll get into that in a minute, what I thought about them during the match. Versus Greg Valentine and Brutus Beefcake with Johnny Valiant, of course, my favorite 80s wrestling manager. And Tito Bravo, the Dream Team. Not much in the way of pre-match hype. There wasn't the backstory. There wasn't, I don't even know if there were promos for this match. Okay, so the Dream Team got a promo, but it was short and simple. The Rougeau brothers did not get a promo. However, as jobber, as generic, as boring as the Rougeau brothers looked in appearance, they did not look boring and generic in wrestling. They were very athletic, very talented, and once again, the Dream Team, which is what should have been calling them in WrestleMania 2, the Dream Team finds themselves in an excellent match. They're really good at getting wrestlers over. They seem to be used as that kind of heel team, where they got people that needed a little help with personality, got them over, and displayed their wrestling ability real well. I wrote it reminded me of the Dream Team's match at WrestleMania 2. Again, harkening back to WrestleMania 2, and again, the Dream Team getting people over, working a great match. Beefcake holds one of the brothers up for an elbow drop off the turnbuckle by Greg Valentine. I liked the creativeness there. The Dream Team being much more creative this time around. I feel like they got a little more time on offense. The offense I wanted to see in WrestleMania 2 from the Dream Team, I feel like I saw in WrestleMania 3 a little more. Really cool finish with a return tag move of the Rougeau brothers holding Valentine up for some kind of slam off the turnbuckle into a pin. But to no avail, the ref is distracted. I don't know the name of the move, but one of the Rougeau brothers held Greg Valentine up, and the other guy, it looked like a butt slam or something, jumped over the Rougeau brother and Greg Valentine, and then caught his head in between his legs for like a butt slam. I'm trying my best to describe this without having my mind in the gutter, which it totally is. That's what she said. That's what she saw. It's a butt slam. The ref is distracted. Bravo hits the should-be victorious brother. The brother had Valentine down from the 3 count, and Tito Bravo hits him. Valentine crawls on top as the ref come down for the count and win. I liked it. I liked the dirty win. Validates the Dream Team a little bit. A little bit of a redemption match from WrestleMania 2. Great match, great pace. Just wish the Rougeau brothers had gimmicks and personality, of course. They didn't look like jobbers in the ring, but they looked like jobbers out of the ring. Fantastic match. And we're seeing the disintegration of the Dream Team. Greg Valentine, and they won the match, so it's kind of odd. Brutus Beefcake, or Brutai the Barber, I should say, is disgruntled in the ring, and he's chirping at the ref for some reason. Gorilla Monsoon is kind of confused as to what Brutus Beefcake is jabbering about. Then Greg Valentine and Johnny Valiant and Tito Bravo get out of there, leaving Beefcake in the ring, and Beefcake's like, what's going on? We're seeing the disintegration of that tag team. It makes me sad to see. They had some great matches. I'd love to see more of the Dream Team in lesser-known events and pay-per-views. But yeah, a solid, good match to start off part 2. Match 6, we got Adrian Adonis versus Roddy Piper. It's a stipulation head shave match. I thought the pre-match vignette was good. Maybe the best vignette of WrestleMania. We'll get into that into the awards. Adonis and Piper seem to be having a hot feud. I mean, there were tables being slammed. I mean, they were hitting each other off the stage, hitting each other in the ring, backstage. And then, Piper was great in his promo. No prisoners, no mercy. That promo. Adonis and Jimmy Hart had a pretty good promo as well. The match and feud felt as big as it was billed to be. A lot of pop from the crowd, and I will get into why there was a lot of pop from the crowd. I didn't know this. At the beginning of the match, I was kind of surprised. There was great use of Piper's belt, so Piper can't get his shirt and his kilt off exactly right. His belt kind of sticks in his Speedo. It looked organic, felt like an accident that Piper just went with and used it. Started hitting Adonis, and Adonis grabs the belt and starts hitting Piper. Great beginning to the match. Really adds to the intensity. I really feel like these guys want to just tear at each other. This is definitely a match where I don't want to see wrestling. I want to see two dudes beat the crap out of each other. This seems like a feud is getting resolved in WrestleMania 3. They're leaving it all on the line. Piper being dazed and all around, just pausing a second. That was a cool spot. First, Adonis is mounting an offense, and Piper's dazed. He's walking around kind of like this, and he pauses just for a second for like a little Daffy Duck, Bugs Bunny moment, and pokes Adonis in the eye, and then falls over. That was a really funny, entertaining spot. Great finish with Piper nearly falling victim to the sleeper hold. And then coming back to life, typical 80s wrestling, got the sleeper hold on the guy. We're going to get the 2 count. And then before the hand drops on the 3rd count, we get the shaking of the arm and the comeback, the babyface comeback. And then Adonis celebrates only to fall victim to and lose to Piper's sleeper hold. It also appears to be the beginning of a friendship between Piper and Brutus Beefcake. So at the end of the match, Brutus Beefcake helps Roddy Piper shave Adonis's head and keep Adonis from doing anything nefarious. And really, really seeing the beginnings of maybe a future tag team match. Although not to be. It's great energy. I discovered at the end, Gorilla Monsoon saying this is the last time we will see Roddy Piper in the ring. It's not meant to be. If you're an older fan, Roddy Piper ended up in WCW. I don't know if he ever fought in WWF ever again prior to him going to the WCW. I wrote it. I wished it could have been to get someone bigger with a bigger name. I mean, it's Roddy Piper, so instrumental, along with Hogan, of getting the WWF to that point of WrestleMania 3. It was built on Roddy Piper, was one of the pillars of that growth for the company. And so I wish it could have been against someone bigger than Adrian Adonis, this eccentric, weird guy. But nevertheless, it was a great feud, and very entertaining, and just a fine exit from the WWF. The crowd was so loud for Roddy Piper. Next up, we got the Hart Foundation with Danny Davis and Jimmy Hart versus the British Bulldogs with Tito Santana. There it is again. Tito Santana finding his way into a match somewhere. No promo by the British Bulldogs and a dud promo by the Hart Foundation. Wasn't very impressed with the pre-match stuff. Didn't feel like a feud that had been building to WrestleMania 3. No one wants to see Danny Davis or Tito Santana in this match. You're here for the British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation. You can care less about this dirty ref that the Foundation is using against Tito Santana, who, I've said it before, Tito just feels like a wannabe. Like he's just not quite good enough as everybody else in the ring. We saw great teamwork from the Hart Foundation, outworking the Bulldogs early. A little surprise coming off that great WrestleMania 2 match. I haven't seen much from the Hart Foundation, granted. I haven't seen a lot outside of WrestleMania in the 80s, so you had to bear with me on that statement. But from what I've seen of WrestleMania 2, I haven't seen a lot from the Hart Foundation. That's my context, that's my point of view. So I was just surprised to see the Hart Foundation getting up on the British Bulldogs. Danny Davis is so green and appears to be shooting on Dynamite. Whoa. I don't know where Dynamite Kid comes from. Anyways, Davis sold the world's worst suplex on Davey Boy. It was terrible. Oh, Dynamite Kid is Davey Boy Smith's brother or cousin. I don't know. But yeah, Danny Davis trying to wrestle Dynamite Kid was awful. Gave a suplex to Davey Boy. It's so unbelievable. Awful finish with Danny Davis hitting Davey Boy with Hart's microphone. A dirty finish. You expect it from the Hart Foundation, but if you're going to get the Hart Foundation and the British Bulldogs in the ring, I want to see a wrestling match. I want to see some quality top-tier wrestling, and I didn't get it. Very disappointed with that finish. And didn't get to see enough of Bret and Davey Boy. Wanting to see Bret Hart and Davey Boy go at it, but we ended up getting that dirty finish, and he killed all the momentum. Next up in match 8, we got the natural Butch Reed versus Slick with Slick. Butch Reed is with Slick versus Coco Beware. No promos. It felt like a very filler match. The bathroom break match, as I stated, I wasn't very entertained with this match. Coco was entertaining, but overall the match was just flat. Not seeing a lot from Butch Reed. He's just this big, powerful guy. It's kind of a thing with big, powerful guys. They're not very athletic. They're kind of slow. And I didn't feel like he didn't earn his finish rolling up Coco after receiving a crossbody. And then Chico interfered. That was a dud. I don't care. Just again, more Tito Santana that I don't need to see. I wasn't overly excited about any of it at all. Just straight filler. Coco Beware. I've heard his name tossed around before in the history of wrestling. This is my first Coco Beware match, and I gotta say, I'm impressed with Coco. I'd like to see more of Coco. But Butch Reed, I don't need Butch Reed. I don't care about this Slick guy, and I really don't have to see this storyline play itself out. If I never saw Butch Reed and Coco Beware fight again, I'd be grateful for it. I'm gonna stop here at match 8. We'll get another word from our T800 Terminator, and I'll see you back for part 3 of WrestleMania 3. What's going on, guys? Part 3 of WrestleMania 3. Changed clothes for you guys. No, not really. I filmed part 3 yesterday, forgetting the awards. So I gotta include the awards. this is take 2, and hopefully I can make this as entertaining as take 1 was. In match 9, we got the match everybody knows from WrestleMania 3. Macho Man with Elizabeth versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat with George Steele. You got the classic "History Beckons the Macho Man" promo, worst Macho Man impersonation of all time. Nice promo from Steamboat. He did a little karate thing. Had a little heat on the mic compared to WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 2. I can't remember if he even got a promo in WrestleMania 2, but it seems like Ricky the Steamboat understands his character and is in form on the mic. You know, as good as we're going to get from Ricky Steamboat on the mic, you know, him being ultra babyface, not being, you know, like a Ric Flair on the mic. You know, this is as good as it's going to get from Steamboat. And I was glad to see that from Steamboat. It added to the energy, what was building to this match. They did the backstory, very heated feud leading up to WrestleMania 3, and this was the culmination of everything Steamboat's been fighting for. I really liked Steamboat's story and journey in this match. I liked how it was all about Steamboat and this being his final chance to finally get rid of Macho Man and get that strap off that crooked, evil Macho Man. Loud, raucous crowd. It felt like the main event, and it wrestled like the main event, but we'll get into that. I like Macho Man. Early on, Macho Man was trying to keep Elizabeth away from George Steele. This harkens back all the way to WrestleMania 2, or even prior to WrestleMania 2. So something that's been going on for over a year. You know, this long-form storytelling we're used to seeing from old-school wrestling, where George Steele is just absolutely enamored and in love with Elizabeth. And Macho Man having to keep her on the opposite side of the ring from George Steele early on just harkens back to all that. And it's just a funny continuity nod from Macho Man. So the wrestling, there's a lot of pomp and circumstance, a lot of building the crowd. Macho Man doing his, you know, waving his hand deal. The wrestling was really good to start off, but then they get to this spot where Ricky the Steamboat is wrist locking Macho Man, and before Macho Man can get out of it, he lifts Macho Man up by his open hand, his chest, and twirls and slams him down. It was one of the coolest spots I've ever seen. Not to spoil what's coming later in this video, but really loved that wrist lock. And then to see Macho Man holding his wrist and sticking with the continuity of, hey, my wrist is supposed to be hurting. I really liked seeing that. It makes you believe it's real. The continuity matters. You know, even though it's sports entertainment, we still want to believe it's real. That's why we watch. We want to believe it's real. There's great pendulum momentum swinging moments between Ricky and Macho Man. Just Macho Man would mount an offense, and then Ricky would counter Macho and mount an offense, and vice versa. And it really wasn't until Macho Man started throwing Ricky Steamboat out of the ring that the match was just at this high pace. This high energy pace. I also liked, you know, Macho Man kept throwing Ricky Steamboat out of the ring, and eventually Ricky Steamboat got Macho Man out of the ring, so he finally got some payback. And Gorilla Monsoon, it was either Gorilla or Jesse, mentioned that Steamboat wasn't holding back. And I really liked that. I really felt that in this match. You know, Ricky's a very clean-cut, babyface, very gentle demeanor kind of guy. Wants to play by the rules and win the right way. But it just kind of added to the story. You know, this is Ricky's final chance. He's got to do something different this time to get that strap off Macho Man. He can't do he can't play by the rules. He can't be same old Steamboat. He gotta add a little extra something to get him over the edge. And I liked seeing him be a little more aggressive. He wasn't dirty. He was still a baby face. He still played within the rules, but he was a lot more aggressive this time around. Than in his backstory, where he would be, kind of like the Jedi's are in Star Wars. They're just totally defensive. As the match slowed down, there was a point where Macho Man tried everything but the elbow drop to put Ricky Steamboat away. And I liked that because I believed that Macho Man was trying everything he could do to put Steamboat away. He would do a couple power slams, a couple power moves. They were both gassed. He would roll him up. He would do a regular cover pin and just could not put Steamboat away. Really adding to the drama of the match. Really doing a lot to show how much Steamboat wants the Intercontinental Championship. Just as Macho Man seems defeated, so Ricky does a karate chop. It was kind of a weird move, but he did a karate chop off the turnbuckle onto Macho Man. And just as he seems defeated, Macho casually puts his foot up on the ropes for the kick out. And I just love seeing that. It's such a heel move. There's no shoulder lift. It's just straight up foot on the ropes. And it's just hilarious, especially the way Macho Man does it. So casual, so nonchalant. It was fun to see. There's great offense by Steamboat going into several pin reversals. I said that previously. There was a point where Macho and Ricky were just reversing the hell out of each other, and Ricky reversed several pins, turning them back on Macho Man and forcing him to have to kick out. And it was just really fun seeing, again, like I said, the momentum, pendulum swinging offense. It just traded back and forth through this match. It's very dramatic, very, very intense. We could really feel like this belt really was on the line, and these two men wanted it with everything in their bodies. Greatest elbow drop of all time is WrestleMania 3, Macho Man dropping on Ricky Steamboat. I've seen this match before. It's just fun to get a refresher and commit it more to memory. But yeah, that elbow drop was fantastic, beautiful. I'd love to get a print of Macho Man elbow dropping Steamboat. He just had the most beautiful form when executing that elbow drop. And the delivery and execution of that elbow drop is just fantastic. Loved the finish. Steamboat rolling up Macho Man after a slam. So Macho Man slams Steamboat and he reverses into a pin for the win. And I wrote to finish out the notes that this submits Ricky Steamboat as the greatest babyface of all time. And I really mean that. I don't think there's the only wrestler there's only two wrestlers I could really, truly, honestly think of that are just the epitome of what it is to be a babyface. They never had, I shouldn't say that. They were just the ultimate good guys. And it's a little weird because one guy in this conversation, Bret Hart, was playing heel in the 80s, and I'd never seen Bret Hart play heel before. But in the 90s, he became the ultimate heel guy. And I think the other guy in this conversation should be Sting. I think Sting should be top 3 baby faces of all time. One of the most over baby faces of all time. Stuck to his guns, stuck to his principles. I view Sting as the guy that never sold out. He went to WrestleMania. He went to the WWE, but he got out of it after he had his stint and went to AEW. But yeah, I think even more so than Bret Hart and Sting, I think Ricky Steamboat to me is the ultimate babyface, the ultimate good guy, the guy that's never going to have a heel run, the guy that's always going to play by the rules, the sweet, gentle demeanor of Ricky Steamboat. It's just like it's almost like he's a religious, spiritual figure in personality, and to see him put on a match that good and just incredible. And I was so impressed with that match. You know, Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse the Body Ventura, they call it the greatest match of all time up to their 12 years of being in the business. I don't know if I can say that. Greatest match of all time. I love Macho Man. I really do. And this might be Macho Man's greatest match, but greatest match of all time. I don't know. There's been a lot of wrestling since that match. There's been a lot of great matches since that match. It's just really hard to claim a greatest match of all time, but I will say this goes down in history as a fantastic match, for sure. Moving right along, and I guess this match was placed here just kind of allow the crowd to calm down and process that fantastic Intercontinental Championship match. But we had Jake the Snake with Alice Cooper versus the Honky Tonk Man. And this was kind of billed as, you know, kind of the heavy metal Jake the Snake guy, which is weird. I would have pegged Jake the Snake as more of a Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, outlaw country guy. He just looks like a bar fight guy, where he's gonna come in there and steal your woman and punch you in the face and chug a bottle of Jim Beam on his way out. That just seems like Jake the Snake is that kind of guy, his gimmick. So interesting to see Alice Cooper with Jake the Snake. However, Alice Cooper is known to play with snakes. Jake the Snake has Damien, so I see the fit there, and it worked. It did work. But they were playing off the heavy metal Alice Cooper, Jake the Snake versus, you know, the rockabilly, Elvis, old world style Honky Tonk Man. You know, kind of a new generation versus old generation kind of thing. Above average promos, that they were above average. I felt a little heat, but it's just hard to, you know, coming off that Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat match, it's just really hard for anything to be excellent. Really hard to feel the heat and get into anything right after that match. But I would still say the promos, again, above average. I liked the dichotomy of the music styles. We already covered that. Immediately, Jake the Snake goes from Honky Tonk Man, and I gotta say, wow, Jake the Snake was on his game. Looked very real in execution. I thought he was actually punching Honky Tonk Man. Honky Tonk Man did a great job of selling Jake the Snake. I wrote, this looks like peak form Jake the Snake. And I don't know, maybe Jake the Snake's got, I feel like this is still early in his career. I feel like Jake the Snake's got plenty of fantastic matches ahead of him, which I'll have to watch. I'll have to watch this documentary and learn more about Jake the Snake in the future. But I feel like this is peak form Jake the Snake right here. He's looking really good in this match. There was a few moments in the match where both me and Honky Tonk Man and Jake the Snake were trying to set up the finishers. And I liked the spot because it really felt like both guys were really ready to just put each other away. And it didn't feel too early in the match, like it was it was just like out of nowhere. You could see it coming, you could see the setup, and I liked that they were trying to set up the finishers, but they couldn't quite get there. They had to fight more and beat the crap out of each other more. There was a great spot. Honky Tonk Man got tied up in the ropes, and Jake the Snake punches Honky Tonk Man, and he ricochets down, and his head bounces off the mat and ricochets back into Jake the Snake's fist, and that happens for about 2 or 3 punches. Really funny, cartoon-like moment. Honky Tonk Man did a great job with that spot. As good as the match was, for me to feel some kind of heat and still be invested in the match, coming off of Steamboat and Macho Man, which says a lot, because it's hard. It's hard to come off that high of that match and get ready and get into the next match. I still thought it was a very good match, and the finish was awful. Honky Tonk Man cheated, and I wrote it felt every bit like a vendetta match, and I wanted to see it play out. I understand it's kind of a heel versus heel match, and those are almost always going to end in controversy, and I get that, but the match was going somewhere, and I wanted to see both guys beat the crap out of each other. I wanted to see somebody, whether it was Honky Tonk or Jake the Snake, pull the finisher out and finish the guy and win the match. So they could have bragging rights. And to see Honky Tonk Man chicken out and cheat and get out of the ring, just killed the momentum of the match. I didn't really like seeing that. But it did lead to Jimmy Hart being left in the ring, and Alice Cooper and Jake the Snake putting Damien on Jimmy Hart. And this time, as opposed to WrestleMania 2, the crowd does pop for Damien. They're going nuts. Jimmy Hart's going nuts, and it's just real uncomfortable anytime that snake gets pulled out of the bag. And Jimmy Hart squirming, and then he gets out of there. Great end to the match, just not a great finish to the match. Let's see here. In match 11, we got Nikolai Volkov with the Iron Sheik with Slick. I don't understand why Slick's here. Slick was the natural Butch Reed's manager. I don't know what he's doing with Nikolai Volkov. And Iron Sheik, I'm used to seeing Classy Blassie, but maybe Classy Blassie retired. He did look a little old in WrestleMania 2. Slick didn't have really much to do with the match. He's just kind of there. As always, and they're versing the Killer Bees, the ridiculous Killer Bees. There's only one Killer Bee, a Wu-Tang Clan fan, not these guys. And of course, Nikolai Volkov goes for the Cheap Heat, the USSR national anthem, getting ready for the boost, and then here we come down the ramp. Hacksaw Jim Duggan with that 2x4. This seems kind of this is the first time I've seen Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the earliest video I've seen of him. So it feels like somewhere between 86 and 87 is the beginning of Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Seems like the USA chant is here. And he was entertaining, and unfortunately for the match, he was the most entertaining part of the match. It wasn't a very good match. If the guy interfering and having nothing to do with the match is the most entertaining part. He told Nikolai Volkov, "You're messing with the USA," and all that stuff shooting on him, and it was good times watching Duggan. There was so much trash in the ring. Volkov is the king of heat in the 80s. If you wanted your crowd to go buck wild and boo and hate a wrestler, you sent Nikolai Volkov out there. Great heel. There was no promos. It felt very filler. It definitely felt like the match before the main event. The match we were just going to have to just get you prepped for the main event. Standard wrestling from both teams. Nothing stood out. No great spots. I don't even think I've put any great spot moments other than the cool camel clutch Iron Sheik put on one of the Killer Bees. The camel clutch that broke Bob Backlund. And that was really it. I mean, there wasn't really a whole lot to the match. Just very, very filler, empty calories. For the main event, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. We've been building to this for two and a half hours roughly. World-class promo from Hulk Hogan. We're getting all the classic lines, the 24-inch pythons and the "what you gonna do, brother," and he talks about the 90,000 people outside the stadium, and when I slam Andre the Giant, the world's gonna break, and all that stuff. Great classic Hogan lines. Odd to see heat for Andre, and I've seen interviews about this match. I don't remember who. It's been a long time since I've seen all my wrestling documentaries, but it was kind of Andre passing the torch to Hogan. Andre kind of had a hard time going heel, I believe, but he was willing to do it for Hogan. I can't remember all the behind the scenes stories about it, but I know Andre was willing to do it, and people were kind of nervous if Andre would play the heel. All throughout WrestleMania 3, I noted here, trash was being thrown at Andre. All throughout WrestleMania 3, trash was being thrown at the wrestlers. This was a day and age where fans let you know they hated you. There was one match, I forget which match it was, Bobby the Brain. It might be the King JYD match. A piece of trash hits Bobby Heenan in the face, and he has to kind of dodge it so it doesn't smack him on the nose or something. All the pre-match showboating, shooting the crab, all that stuff, pointing to the sky. Hogan, very intense stare down for the ref to explain the rules. So the match pretty much was Andre dominating and Hogan having offense from time to time. There was a cool spot, probably the coolest spot of the match, when Andre steps on Hogan and put all of his weight on Hogan. It made me cringe. Oh, it made me cringe. I wonder if some of Hogan's back surgeries, I've heard he's had back surgeries later in life, hadn't had anything to do with Andre stepping on his back. Whew. He lifted that left leg up, and oh my God. That was a really good spot from Andre. I'd never seen that from Andre before. We got an Andre chop. I love the chop. I don't know why it's my favorite wrestling move, other than it's funny to see somebody get chopped and hear the crowd go, "Woo!" But this is pre-Ric Flair in the WWF, so we didn't get a "woo" to the chop. We just got the chop. Still love to see it. Hogan, there's a point where Hogan's in the turnbuckle. No. Hogan and Andre are outside the ring. And Andre goes to headbutt Hogan. And Hogan ducks, and Andre's headbutts the turnbuckle. I like seeing that. Hogan raised the stakes by ripping the mat and showing the concrete floor. But so it really, seeing that, I was into the match at that point. I was like, okay, now the match is getting serious. And it was just a total flop. Hogan did something to Andre, but he slid off Andre and rolled onto the concrete, but then tried to sell that he hit the concrete, and Gorilla and Jesse kind of tried to help sell that he had hit the concrete. It was just kind of a waste of ripping up the mat, kind of a waste of that spot, and the match was just awkward all around, really. Yeah, I wrote that it was a good match. Just wanted to see more offense from Hogan. This match is the match, the way it flowed, the way Andre dominated most of the match. This match is the match I wanted to see in WrestleMania 2 with King Kong Bundy in a steel cage, where Hogan can't get out. He's in the ring with a monster that's squashing people with the avalanche and asking for a 5 count to show how dominant he is. This is the match I wanted to see with King Kong Bundy, with Hogan having to Hulk up at the very last minute to stop Bundy. But with Andre the Giant, I was kind of hoping, with it being the best the WWF has to offer, you know, the face of the company and Hulk Hogan, one of the biggest baby faces of all time, the most over wrestler in the company at the time, versus the second most over wrestler, the wrestler that's been a beloved wrestler for 15 years. He's undefeated for 15 years. He's giving you his undefeated streak. He's passing the baton on to you. This is a changing of the guard. I would have liked to have seen both men have plenty of offense. I wanted to believe at the end that both wrestlers put it all on the line for the title, and I didn't feel that way. I got, it was just very much David versus Goliath, and Hogan trying anything he could do to get Andre down, and you know, I thought for years I thought he suplexed Andre the Giant. I don't know if I've ever seen this match in its entirety, and it was just kind of a scoop slam, which I understand. Andre's huge. How are you going to suplex Andre? But I thought that's what was so incredible and legendary and iconic about this match, was that it was a suplex. And I was looking forward to seeing it. But then when I saw the scoop slam, I was like, okay, cool. It's impressive, but it's still not a suplex. Not to knock the slam. It takes a lot of strength to slam Andre. Even though I've heard Andre jumped for Hogan. Didn't look like he jumped for Hogan in the video, in the match, in real time. But Andre claims he jumps for Hogan for that slam. Which doesn't make it any less impressive. It still looks really good. It sold very well if Andre did in fact jump for Hogan. You know, yeah, I just felt like Hogan, a match where Hogan was trying anything and everything to just survive the match, and you know, Hulk up at the end, which it made the match feel a little predictable. You know, if I had seen both Andre and both Hogan put it all on the line, you know, Hogan really hurt Andre, but Andre mount a comeback and have kind of a final spot where both guys are just sluggish and punching each other or chopping each other. Maybe not get the Hulk up. Maybe just have Hogan leg drop him at the very end without a Hulk up. Maybe I would have enjoyed that a little more. But even though I knew Hogan won, you know, I'm looking back on this in retrospect, it still felt predictable. I feel like if I had seen that match in 1987, I would have just have been waiting on the Hulk up for Hogan to win, and it just kind of took me out of the match a little bit, just knowing Hogan was going to Hulk up at the end and win, which I understand. Anytime you watch a Hogan match, doesn't matter if it's for a title, doesn't matter if it's, you know, Monday Nitro exhibition match, you know, if Hogan hulks up, that's the end of the match pretty much. You know, and I get that. It's all about Hogan dropping that leg. But just didn't. I don't feel like Hogan was made to look like he could handle Andre at all. But I get it. Andre's this immovable object. He's so incredibly huge. He's awkward to wrestle. You know, he can't really move himself. He's not the greatest wrestler in the world, and in fact, he's one of the worst wrestlers in the world. Let's be real. You know, so what are you going to do? And I get it. I understand why the match played out the way it did. I just didn't really like it. I wanted to see more from Hogan. Maybe I would have believed it was I would have believed, Andre had more of a chance if Hogan had been made to look a little better. But you just knew it was going to be Hogan up at the end. I don't understand why. I don't understand why people celebrate Andre that much. I don't understand the hype. Andre is so awkward and so awful in the ring. He spent a lot of time in this match just resting on the ropes, just leaning over, and he never gets on the mat. I've never seen him put like a wrestling move on somebody, and he does like 45 like big heavy-handed chops to people on their backs. That's really Andre. If you just think it's cool to see a big giant man move around and squash people, I get it. Andre's huge. He's a spectacle to see. But in terms of wrestling, Andre's one of the worst there is. And that match was kind of awkward to watch. So let's get into the awards now. Best promo, I think, I wanted to go with Hogan because this is all the classic Hogan stuff. But it's too easy to go with Hogan. The WWF does everything they can to make Hogan look good in this time frame. I'm going to have to go with Roddy Piper because it caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it. I thought the vignette between him and Adonis, he made Adonis. The vignette and the promos made Adonis look like a serious heel. And I think Adonis is ridiculous. If I never saw an Adrian Adonis match again, I would be grateful for it. The guy's weird. I'm not seeing a whole lot of wrestling from the guy, but these vignettes, the story between Piper and Adonis just seemed to mesh well. The characters seemed to be a good fit for a feud. All the table busting and behind the scenes brawls and Roddy Piper going at Jimmy Hart, and then the No Mercy, No Prisoners promo from Piper. I was really impressed. So I have to give best promo to Roddy Piper, and then it being a swan song added to the intensity of the rivalry of the feud. Piper did some of his best work in that feud. Now, favorite wrestler, my favorite wrestler of WrestleMania 3. I mean, come on, it's Macho Man Randy Savage. I love Macho Man Randy Savage. Anytime he gets in the ring, he just puts on a show, and I get goosebumps. And I know I'm in for a good time. The best wrestler of WrestleMania 3, of course, I gotta say Ricky the Steamboat Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I just want to say Ricky the Steamboat Dragon. No, it's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Best wrestler, some of his best material I've seen to date in his career is in this match. The wrist lock slam, which is my favorite spot. I hate to make this WrestleMania 3 all about this match. It wasn't about this match. It was overall a better WrestleMania than WrestleMania 2. I promise you. It is much more enjoyable to sit through WrestleMania 3 than WrestleMania 2. But this match was a spectacle. Favorite spot was the Ricky the Steamboat wrist lock slam. Ricky Steamboat is the best wrestler. And overall, and then the best match, obviously the best match is Macho Man, Steamboat. They stole the show. They were way more entertaining than the main event. Which, if you knew much about wrestling back then, you should have seen that coming. Steamboat and Macho Man being better than Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. Hogan and Andre, it's like a movie. It's like the Hogan movie saga. We get the Orndorff Piper main event at WrestleMania 1, and then part 2 of the Hogan saga is the King Kong Bundy rivalry in WrestleMania 2, and then part 3 to end the trilogy, the biggest, baddest, most over wrestler he's ever fought, in Andre, to finish out the Hogan trilogy. And I thought it was a good movie, the Hogan trilogy. Felt very epic, but when it comes to wrestling, have to give best match to Macho Man Randy Savage and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I would have loved to have given the British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation the best match, but it was a dirty finish. Didn't get enough of Bret Hart and Davey Boy Smith in the ring. There wasn't too much wrestling. And then Tito Santana and the Dangerous Davis, or whatever his name was, that dirty ref that the Foundation brought with them. Nobody wanted to see that. JYD and Harley Race was a good match. Very entertaining, but just nothing compares to the Intercontinental Championship match of WrestleMania 3. That'll do me, guys. Another WrestleMania in the books. Stay tuned. I've got 2 reviews coming this week. I'm doing an Action Comics book, and I'm going to read a Superman book, actually titled Superman. That'll do me, guys. Thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting. If you made it this far, if you watched the video, God bless you. I know these are hour